All right, so I've got my sketch such as it is, not really refined yet. You want to get it to the place where you can start to notice little areas of proportion that might need to be different. So his eyes are slightly above center. And what I love about digital art is I can then just simply take this section, his eyes, and instead of changing my whole drawing, I can simply move them up a little bit or transform them using everything we learned in compositing. Kind of angle and find their place. So drawing isn't the end of it in Photoshop, it's just kind of a suggestion, and then you can modify as you need to. And then the nose is also a little bit higher, just slightly. So I might take this bottom line of the nose, again, before I've drawn too much, and just move it a little bit. Get it at the right place. We don't all do the sketch perfectly the first time. And it's the art of observing correctly, not necessarily the art of putting it down correctly. So that I can adjust my proportions a bit. Looks like I can grow his ear a little bit too, because this is an older picture. Ears grow as you age. Let's think of this as aging him a little bit. Okay. So now we get to the speed sketching and the speed painting part. And I could just do it with gray, so I can switch, like I mentioned, to a larger version of the same brush at a lower opacity, and then just start painting in the shadows, like his cheek here. Strong cheekbones, and his nose, and the side of his face here is quite dark. And this is like a value study. Notice I haven't done his glasses. I'll do those kind of when I'm confident of the placement of everything. And how his hair is pretty dark up here. And makes a pretty defined hairline. That's very squared off. Comes to kind of a triangular point there, and then gets softer and lower opacity. I'm using Command Z a lot. You can always use your history. I have my history right there. The neck is in shadow. Some shadows are deeper than others. Of course, his whole suit jacket is pretty dark. So some people like to paint more along the lines of using shapes, composing with shapes. And you're definitely welcome to do that. But when I paint, I am impatient usually to get to the color. I enjoy color in painting. So I'm just going to do this enough to establish a darkest dark somewhere. And then I'm going to get into the real business of stealing colors and painting with them. In as fast and furious a way as I can. So I have a lot of energy in the end product. That's what I'm excited about for this painting. Now I haven't drawn out and sketched out a lot of his wrinkles, there's no reason to do that because I can do that all in color. But it might be helpful to have certain values represented. I'm going to show you how to make your own brushes, how to really attack this thing. So even without drawing his wrinkles, just by kind of painting in some of the shadows I see, it starts to show that age in his face. Because light sources are incredibly important when it comes to the painting. And I'm still not going to my darkest dark until I get to coloring. This is still all just with grays. All right, so this is what I'll call my value study. So I have my sketch on one layer. Then I have my value study on another layer, which is mostly just broad gray shapes. Add a little to the ear here. And this starts to look more like a monochromatic underpainting. And my sketch might get lost entirely. Now, on top of that, I'm actually going to lock both of those for now so I don't accidentally paint on those layers. On top of that, I will do my speed painting. And for this, I'm going to just jump right in and bring in another art piece. And I will do it this way. So open it with Photoshop. And now it's here, stacked, and I will say Window, Arrange, 3 upstacked. Rearrange it a little bit, do that again. And with a little patience, you can get it set up so you really have everything you want all in one place. Now I'm using this to steal colors from and kind of an attitude from, but I still want to see my painting in full scale. All right. So now onto this painting. My speed painting, I am going to steal colors at low opacities and then just start putting them in. So for the deeps, I'm going to use these blues. I like these deep blues. Let's see how those work. These greens for some of the midtones. Purples for the gray of his hair. The pinks, some of his skin tones. The yellow. This is where the creativity and the having fun with it all comes in. Using these kind of fauve colors for their different values. Just as different grays. Painting that on top of my value study that's already there. Now how do I steal colors? I just hold down Option. With any brush I'm using, Option will convert it into the dropper tool, which will steal colors from any other file open in Photoshop. And it's important that I'm using a lower opacity so the colors start to blend together. Now the problem is, even though the color selections are nice and strong, all the brush strokes are looking pretty similar. So I'm going to want to start modifying my brush a little bit. And so that will be the next thing I do to really help my speed painting. But I wanted to establish a bit of a palette first before I did that. And my darkest dark, I might even paint off to the side like that blue. But you see all of my brush strokes, just because of the brush settings, look fairly similar. They don't go thick to thin as much as I want them to. They're kind of chunky because it's a chunky brush. Maybe I want more direction to it, to each stroke. Maybe I want there to be some color variation in each stroke. Beyond what you can get just by overlaying opacities. So, how do you create your own brush? So that's my kind of speed painting for color. That's it with the value. Shows me I need to do more of the neck here. Have fun. Okay. Now, I need to spend a little bit of time on a new project. So File, New. I want it to be, maybe 500 by 500 pixels, not inches. Doesn't matter what resolution. Open in Photoshop. And now I'm going to create a brush, just like these. What is the shape I want this brush to have for my speed painting? These are all the shapes you see. It could be like a leaf or like a blade of grass. I'm going to make a custom brush, and I want it to be more like black at 100%. My brush stroke to be more kind of chaotic like this. And directional. Okay, so if that's my brush stroke, how do I save this now? I go to Edit and say Divine Brush Preset, and I'm going to call this Carl Portrait Brush. And I say OK. And now, sure enough, it's my last brush option. And I can create as many brushes as I want. So if I select that last brush option, which I can also do from here, I can now shift that brush to different sizes, right? And if I paint with it, it looks like that. So I need to modify it. So now I go to my brush presets, and I'm going to play with the shape dynamics. Only by creating your own brush do you get the full array of different preset dynamics. I definitely want to have size jitter, so it changes in size as I paint. Maybe pretty randomly, like that. I want its minimum diameter to be a little bit larger, and I want its angle to vary just a little bit, not so much it's always twirling on itself. And I want to control the angle jitter by pin tilt. The roundness, let's see what that does. Oh, that's kind of nice. So now I've got a brush that's a little bit more dynamic. And I should have done all those tests on a different layer, but that's what history is for. All right, so now I've got my brush. Now I can start painting in earnest and actually start finishing it off. And I'll do that on the next demo, because I've got my brush, I've got my palette, I've got my value studies and my sketch underneath, and I'm ready to go. So let me save the work at that point.